So last week I showed you a game that I had in Reti, and I thought that was kind of cool to take some time and go over that. It ended up taking all of our time. So the other game that I had prepared for you, we are gonna hopefully take a look at both of them today. So, alright. I am quite excited. So, this game was. I played it. I'm black. I played against the Grandmaster in Martigny. Martigny, yes. Open in 2015. So, like, Martigny Open, from what I remember, was right after Beal. So we played Beal tournament, then it was like a short break, and then we went to Martigny to play that. So for those of you who are trying to plan your next summer, maybe that's something you can do. All right. It wasn't quite. It was kind of short. It was. I think it was just 7 rounds, and it was. It was just a very friendly environment, very nice. If I remember correctly, it was somewhere in the middle of the mountains, which was really nice to see. Okay, so we got it ready, and I was prepared for. I mean, I knew what I wanted to play because back in 2015 I was still experimenting with, do I want g6, do I want e6. So I decided to go for this, and bishop b4, queen c2. I kept on playing this bishop b4 until 2017, when I faced some difficulties in a game that basically all the game my opponent was better, and there was nothing I could do about it. So I kind of switched to Grunfeld, and now I'm in between Nimzo and Grunfeld all the time. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes in the next tournament. Alright, so bishop b4, castle, and so now I'm kind of waiting for opponents to push for this d4, so we get to this classic Nimzo-Indian style. And then when there's d4, I'm hoping that I'll have this setup, so I could do knight e4. But with this, without d4, kind of Nimzo, so starting from Reti, then like doing c4, and then not doing this d4, kind of gives white the chance to play d3 and stop all of this whole knight e4 shebangs. So that's something else to keep in mind. Bram, we are kind of going over a game that I played in 2015 against a Grandmaster. Back in 2015, I was not any kind of Grandmaster. Back in 2015, I got my Women International Master, and in 2016, I got the Women GM, IM, and the FIDE trainer. So 2016 was a very titleful year for me. And then 2017 I became a student. Hopefully next year I'll be getting a degree from there. So different degrees, but okay. So my first question to the audience: how do you want to get your pieces out? So what setup do you guys want to play? b6, bishop b7, d6, e5. You have some different ideas. So which one would you prefer? Ah, I see some Iranians in the chat. Nice, nice. So, any suggestions so far? Okay, d5 is also a possibility, but my problem with d5 is always how you're gonna get this bishop out. Because if, like, you could do d6, b6, and then get the bishop out from the g4 or b7, but with d5, I'm a little skeptical on what to do with this bishop. So, yeah, I think trying to get the bishop out from the queen side might be the easiest way. I really wanted to get this e5 done, so I played d6. My idea is if you play d3, I'm gonna play e5, and we'll see how it goes. I don't really have this knight e4 anymore, but I still do have a nice idea with bishop g4s. If you start trying to do something with e4s, which is not necessarily good because you give up the d4 square, two bishops, you need to open the center, not close it like this. So then I guess I could try to use my knights more. In the game he played e3, which I simply assumed he he didn't want to like show his hand if he's going to play d3 or d4 just yet. I was pretty clear. I want e5. I'm gonna do e5, and then this knight c6. I'm not necessarily sure if knight c6 is the best idea. So my idea with knight c6 was, if you allow me, I want to play e4, I want to play knight e5, I'm gonna come do stuff in the center with my knights. So also keep in mind right now this is a blunder. So either he gotta play d4 or d3 or bishop e2. These are the three top choices. In the game he went for bishop b2, which I can only assume now if it's white to move, white could play bishop d3, because if e4 now he can take it, because I can't take back. The g7 square is falling. I don't really want to get mated so fast. So I think bishop b2 had that tiny trick behind it. So now black to move again. How do you want to follow up? Do you want to try maybe get this bishop out? Do you want to get the queen out? Do you want to just like play a5 and attack b4? So here are some ideas. How do you want to continue for this? Oh, hello. Yeah, I haven't been on Twitch in a while, so I haven't been giving you guys news either. There is a slight chance that I am allergic to my cat. They are doing some they're doing some tests to see if that is true or not. Because if it is true, then my life is going to be very complicated. So yeah, I've been having like swollen eyes, a lot of sneezing. So we'll see. But that's the newest weekly news with Dorsa, since we haven't been on Twitch as often. Alright, so I'm getting some good recommendations on bishop f5. I guess trying to do knight e4 f5. I think knight e4 is a little bit too ambitious, because knight e4 is just going to move the queen, and f5, this is not very ideal, because, well, he's the one who has two bishops, so he wants to open up the center, so you gotta kind of be careful about that. So if this pawn was on d5, then yeah, f5 would have been a little bit more interesting, but with d3 I wouldn't really start thinking about it just so quickly. So I went for bishop g4, and so my idea with bishop g4 is pretty clear. I am threatening to mess with your pawn structure, so I kind of want to take this. I want to start getting the queen out, and I don't think that if he played like h3, I wouldn't necessarily just take on f3. Like, so yes, I did play bishop g4 with the intention of taking on f3, but it's not like whatever you do, I'm going to take on f3. Like if you play h3, I could play bishop h5, take. We do give this file, so that's something to see if this is a good trade-off or not. You could just bring the knight, but I don't think this is what I wanted to go for. Bishop g4 was more just a threat than a serious problem for white. So after bishop g4, he just played bishop e2, logical, just developing. So now what? How do you want to try and push? Do you think e4 is a good idea? So my question is basically, what do you think about e4? Because with e4, if the knight moves, then you could potentially take on e2, and as you can see, then the d3 square is becoming a nice jumping spot. So what do you think? Is e4 a good idea? But I also really kind of do miss our Twitch channel, having the regulars. I see some of the regulars here as well, but yeah, I don't have the luxury of playing chess as much since the semester started, and I also started my MCAT prep. For the non-Americans, MCAT is the exam you do to get into the medical school. Signed up for classes. The books came today. It's huge books. It's like a sack of this much. The weight of it was 17 pounds. So, yay. Alright, so I see that E4 is something that you guys are actually thinking about it. So, okay. Okay, I think you're right. E4 is a good choice. The thing with E4 is that he has limited choices. It's either knight D4 or something trying to be tricky and play like B5. But with B5, because if you take on F3 now, then he's gonna take it back with the pawn. You save your bishop, then he's gonna take over here, and now there's two bishops. Ooh, and this open file and open center, so that's something that white would prefer to have compared to most positions in this game. So b5 is a little tricky, just trying to see if I'm going to make a mistake or not. If he played knight d4, then what do you guys want to do? Shall we take on e2 and try this, or should we just take on d4? So yeah, what do you want to do? Knight g5s, I don't know which position you're exactly talking about, Thomas, but knight g5s, if you were mentioning it here, then the e2, I would just simply take on e2. Yeah, I think bishop e2 is the easiest way. Like, you could do knight e5 right now, but then you have to deal with some f3s or some f4s. It gives white some fighting chances. We don't really want to give those fighting chances. So I agree. Let's take over here. After take back, then we can do this knight e5s. And then knight f4 seems to be the only move to defend d3. Now I'm thinking, can I just play g5 and then try and check? No, I don't really want to do this g5. This really does scare me. Maybe just I can just get the queen out. Just simply develop. I generally like this position more. I feel like the queen and the bishop are kind of misplaced. They're attacking nothing. So, alright. Yeah, now let's go back to b5, because I do think that b5 is the best one and the trickiest one. So let's just keep looking at this. Alright, so after b5, we gotta do this knight e5, because as also mentioned in the chat, if we were to simply take over here, then we have to deal with, oops, not that would be great. Then we have to deal with, depending on where you place your bishop, I don't necessarily think it matters that much, but now you have some serious issues, like how are you going to cover all of these weak squares? Like, okay, king h8, now I can just do like bishop d3, and next I could even try to do like king e2, double up the rooks. The king is very safe on e2. For that, I would refer you to the lecture we had a few weeks ago about should we castle or not. Alright, so yeah, e takes f3 after b5 would simply give white what it wants, so knight e5 is the right move. So after knight e5, my opponent did take on e5, and now we gotta take that, because if we were to take on e5, now bishop takes here, and there could be just h3 and then this pawn falls, right? Yes, exactly. Yeah, chat, you guys are all, you're doing very well. Alright, so gotta take on e2. We could consider some intermediate moves with knight f7. I do think a king take e2 might have been the best way for white, and just try to develop, just try to like play d3 and do like the fake castle. I think this would have been the best way for white to have it. But in the game, my grandmaster opponent just played knight takes f7. So I gotta take it back because my queen is under attack. And now, this king is in the middle of the center without much shelter. And yes, give him a few moves is gonna do the fake castle. But now it's black to move. So how can we use this king weakness? Exactly. Knight g4. So, just nice simply. And the problem is, compare this position to if he took king takes e2 first and saved the tempi by playing rook d1. See, in the game he took here, and now it's my turn. And I also have this open file. So that's why we shouldn't always eat the free stuff, even though I do recommend always eat free stuff. Not necessarily, always think about it and try to evaluate the position. But because if you don't think about the free stuff, for example, if you didn't see this pawn take, you wouldn't have realized that, alright, so this pawn take is not the most accurate because you end up giving black some nice chances. So he just played f4. Now, how do we follow? Alright, great. I already see in the chat people are mentioning it before me asking, so I'm just going to go ahead and say yes to queen h4. So our idea is pretty simple. I want f2. In the game he played rook e1. Now if I do this queen f2, he's just gonna run away. And my queen is kind of like awkward placed here. Like, yes, I could try to maybe take the pawn, but it doesn't make any sense. Why would I give my opponent chances to just like, why would I like push the opponent to run away? So this doesn't make much sense to me. I wouldn't have done queen f2. So what do you guys think we should do now? Oh, I just got an email from Talia. If you are somewhere watching, thanks for the email. So we do have like 2 or 3, I want to say like one really interesting move. The other one is also acceptable. You could simply just like double your rooks up. That's also alright. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. But if you want to actually play accurately, you have to think about queen h5. The other move is a little bit more tactical, so I'm gonna give you guys another maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute, to see if you can find it. So I didn't see this move in the game, so if you don't see this, there's nothing wrong with it. It's like a grandmaster as white missed it, I missed it, so it's not the end of the world, but okay. Ooh, I do see few people mentioning it. I don't know if you guys are just saying it because it's funny or no, you're correct. Knight e5 is the best one because you can't take it. Now there's queen g4 checkmate, just like in the middle of the board. This is a very beautiful checkmate. If I ever end up writing a tactics book, this one will definitely go in it. I actually have been considering it, but not this, not 2020. I need to get done with my MCAT monster first. I need to ace that. But maybe next year, so if you guys have ideas, I'm always open to it. Alright, but yeah, knight e5 is quite interesting. I didn't do this. I had like the similar idea, so I played queen h5, And the other beautiful thing about knight e5 is that you are kind of already jumping into d3. Yes, you want to play queen g4, but even if not, you do have this knight d3. So like, let's say you move this rook, so no more checkmate. Now you get knight d3. And now this knight is becoming a nice monster, right? Now queen g4 coming up, like h3 seems to be the only move. Now I can simply just, I guess push a6 or d5 or kind of just like double my rooks. I think this is just very pleasant for black. White doesn't necessarily have too many moves to do, like king, he can't even play king d1 because of knight f2. So I really do like this position. Okay, let's go back. I just went with queen h5. Queen h5 was interesting. Oh, sorry, I wasn't thinking, if I did mention g6, I was thinking about something like a6 or c5, not h6. I did not really want to touch my kingside pawns, especially with the queen on c3. So if I did say it, it's a simple mispronunciation. But alright, so queen h5. Now, what do you guys think white should do? White should definitely try to get some room for the king, right? So either you gotta move this rook. This rook is quite misplaced in e1. I don't know why he played rook e1. So maybe like either rook g1 now, I do knight e5. You could play g4. So if I take it now, this knight is also kind of pinned. So that would be interesting. I think maybe rook g1 is the easiest way to continue this game, but he played king f1. Okay, so king f1, now what shall we do as black? You can see that we are a pawn down, but we do have a quite nice piece coordination. So I'm not the biggest fan of knight h2, because if you play knight h2, it feels like you are already like giving up. Knight h2, king g1, then what are you gonna do? Yes, you kind of have to play knight f3, take, and I don't think you have anything more than a perpetual. So yes to queen h4. Yeah, queen h4 is great. Again, knight e5 would have been interesting as well. I just went with queen h4, and he played king e2, and at this point I was like, you know what, let's repeat. And I repeated, and he just played rook e2, but like he offered a draw and I accepted. But I kind of do regret it. I've shown some other games that I've accepted draw and then I regretted it. So I hope I wouldn't accept the draw now if I was playing someone. Definitely the fact that he was like 300 points more than me had some say in my decision, but at the same time I didn't really know how to continue, so I had some issues with converting the advantage. Like, I knew I was better, I just couldn't necessarily convert it, so I just kind of repeated. Actually funny, after rook e2, knight h2 is interesting, because now we get queen g4. I thought that's worth mentioning. Okay, so let's just, okay, so this was the end of this game. I do want to show you another game that I prepared, and I was black again, and this was 2016, so this was like maybe 6 months after the previous game. So I told you that I was kind of trying to figure out if I prefer e6 or if I prefer g6 style. So this was during that struggle as well. I was playing a closed round robin tournament in Belgium, one of the first closed tournaments I ever played. I didn't end up scoring a norm there, but I ended up playing for their team for the season, so I guess, well, kind of alright. I mean, I would prefer norm, but, well, I didn't come back completely empty-handed. I did get some good games. So this was one of them. I was playing Pieter Hopman. I think he's an international master. I might be wrong, but I remember that I know that he was higher rated than me at the time. Not much, maybe like by 50 points. Okay, so during the struggle that I was facing in 2015 and 16 on do I want g6 or do I want e6, this game resulted in g6. So let's try to see how did my fight with myself go. So we have a nice King's Indian, classic, right? So hold on, I think there might. Oh yeah, okay. So Bishop e2 is one of the games that I had. I had some other. Whoa, no! It gave out the ending. Ugh. I had some other games as well. So somebody that played h3 against me. That's a different story. I had another game that's after Bishop e7, e5. Someone played castle instead of Bishop e3. That this game was played by Bishop e3. So does anybody actually play this? Who plays King's Indian? Ah, hi Josh. Are you here as with your sword? Well, the knife? Alright, so I can see that there are some people who play this line. Obviously, some people are playing. There's so many lines. Anyways, so this King's Indian is one of the most common positions because, well, we kind of have to start preparing an attack. This is like the style with black. I'm gonna go kill you in the king side. You're gonna kill me in the queen side. Let's see who can kind of like win this game faster. Okay, so so far so good. Everything seems to be normal. We got this f5. I do have this nice little threat of f4. Give me that bishop for free. Obviously didn't. f3. And okay, so far everything is normal, right? White is preparing to open up over there. I'm preparing to open up in the king side. And so my first question to you, when white is attacking in the queen side in this type of pawn structure, especially King's Indian or some Ruy Lopez, what should we do? Should we just mind your own business and should you just push? Or should you play something with b6 or a5 or c6? Like, should you poke it back? Okay, so I have one ignore. Let's see what Josh will say. After all, pretty sure he's the highest rated watching right now. That is true. Before you could do some a5 stuff. Okay, so we're getting a lot of poke back. So, far back, not necessarily. It would be a good idea if we could actually stop this attack in the queen side and then attend king side with a eased mind. But not necessarily we can always achieve that. So I played b6, which I'm not entirely sure about. Potentially a5 is another idea, because if you take, now I can try c5, and my idea is I just want to like lock this part up. I just want to lock it up, sit and watch. So that is kind of why I really didn't. I wasn't really sure. I just think it's so hard to make these decisions on a5, b6, ignore c5. So I just went for b6. I do believe that I looked at this position prior to the game, not necessarily like right before, but Alright, so in the game he played c5. What do we think about c5? Good, bad, accurate? Can black slow it down? Well, I mean, ideally we just want to stop it, not even that. Ooh, that would be nice. If I could play all moves like an engine, my life would be so much easier. Now the question is, can I use the same engine in my real life problems and not just chess? But alright, now I'm just daydreaming. Okay, so after, I think c5 is alright. Might be slightly premature, because like I think knight b3 would have been a nice preparation. So c5 is alright though, it's not a bad move. So after c5, I was gonna say take, we can take. So what do you guys think about take? And which one should we take, or does it even matter? So do you guys want to try and do some exchange on c5, or do you want to ignore it and play rook f6 like I did? So I do think that necessarily not rook c6, rook f6 is not necessarily the best move, because it would be pleasant if we already had fixed everything in the queen side. I can't find words, not necessarily sure why for that as well. Alright, so if we take on c5, take and take back, let's say take. Now I kind of do prefer white's pawn structure, and I am like, if this bishop was in d4, then no, I absolutely prefer black, but this bishop is also troublesome. What are you gonna do after knight c4? So knight comes to c4. Now you can't even use this d6 square. I don't know. Yeah, it's just kind of like, I feel like if I played like this, I might as well just be like bowing my head to the opponent already. So after c5, I just played rook f6 in the game. I don't have a full rationale on what I was thinking, but what I am thinking now is that rook f6 does kind of go hand in hand with this type of attack, because you do want to try and just attack as much as possible, as strong as possible. So rook f6 was alright. Also, if you play c6, now I have knight f8, so there is another square for the knight, compared to having to go back to f6. So these are some stuff to consider. Now I could also think about getting my queen out that way. Okay, so in the game he didn't play c6, he went queen b3. Now, also in most of these type of pawn structures, from what I've realized, you either want to take over here or you don't. If you want to take over here, then you have to keep an eye out for when it's the right time to take it. If not, I didn't want to take it over on c5, so I was just ignoring it. I wasn't looking for it every move, unless something changes, like unless he pushes this pawn or moves this bishop. Whoops, that would be illegal. If he did something dramatic, then yes, I would consider taking over here. But if not, if the pawn is still here, if the bishop is still here, I don't think I would waste much time and effort considering what to take, when to take. So after queen b3, you gotta make up your mind. Either you want to take c5 and you want to go into that interesting position with some issues with, you know, what we were just looking at, the double pawns and now knight c4s and this weak pawn, or either you want to try your chances here, or you don't and you just ignore this whole taking on c5. Okay, so I just played rook h6. I just I am going for your king, and I'm going to get that king sooner or later. Okay. So another thing to mention is this idea with rook c1. For those of you who play this as white, is good. So you could consider this something with like play rook c1, try to do knight c4, because white's game is basically in the queen side. So as long as you are advancing your queen side and you're making some trouble in the queen side, I do agree with that. Okay, so rook c1, there is a question about taking it once and not twice. So if you take, you are still giving your opponent some chances. So let's say you play like rook b8 in this specific position, and you still don't want to take on c5. Now he could try and take on here, and then he also has this pass pawn. So I would prefer not to give too many chances, but that is my chess philosophy. The less chances I give, the better. So in this position, I actually played slightly inaccurate and I did a6. It's not like a blunder, it's not a huge deal. I was kind of hoping that it would provoke him to try and close this part up, which it didn't. He took on d6, and now I was quite happy, because if you play here, I have a5. If you play something like knight a4, I could think about b5. And you gotta move that knight away again. And okay, so in this position, we are finally getting some stability. So finally, the queen side is somewhat stabilized. This rook is pretty strong, so we gotta keep an eye out for that. Your rook is kind of awkwardly misplaced, but can't help it much at the moment. We can simply try and bring more pieces to the king side, and that is what I did as well. So I'm bringing queen e8, and as soon as I can, queen h5, and seems that my attack is stopped, right? But that is not correct. We are still far away from an attack being stopped. So knight f6. And finally, knight e4. So my question to you guys, do you think this position is good for black, or did knight e4 just give white some interesting chances? So basically, white to move, are you going to take that back? Do you think knight e4 is a strong move, or is it just a bluff? Anybody wants to give it a try? Anybody wants to take on e4? Because if you don't take on e4, you kind of just gave up that pawn, and now my knight on e4 is going to take on f2, or just come back, play e4, play g4. So you have a serious choice to make. Either you're going to take that knight and call my bluff, or it is actually just true. It is a kind of huge bluff, because take on e2. I'm attacking absolutely nothing. Yes, I'm attacking potentially e4. I might want to push some pawns, but at the same time you have rook c7. What am I to do with this knight? The thing is, if I move the knight, now you're gonna do like something like queen c4 and try and threaten me with exchanging queens, and also my precious bishop. If I try to save it, again, I'm getting destroyed in the queen side. So I'm actually getting destroyed, like there's no way out. Yeah, we are going to try to do b takes a6. That is the idea of wanting to exchange the queens, to have a super easy endgame for white. So knight takes e4 was a bluff. Good on those of you who saw it. If you didn't, don't worry too much about it. My opponent didn't see it either. He assumes that knight e4 he blundered, and he just started. Actually, they started showing in his face. He started to get stressed, and it was quite nice to see that my bluff was working. So after knight takes e4, the best is to take back, but he didn't. He played bishop b6, and now this gives me some new chances. What do you think is the best move for black now? So now black to move. How can we continue this bluff? Good, thank you. Knight d2. Great tactic. Good eye. So knight d2, you can't really take it, because if you take, now I have queen takes h2, and I'm not going to give you this check because, well, I mean, I could, but I would have to repeat. So now we're just gonna play queen g3. I have a much stronger threat. Also knight f5 coming up, bishop h3 coming up, everything. You play something like bishop g1, I'm just gonna go there and simply just gonna put more pressure, and finalize this with the knight. So yes, I did play knight d2 in the game. I wasn't going to miss my chance after a huge bluff. In the game, he went for a queen c2. Now, we have a clear advantage. Well, you kind of do have to take on f1, because something like e4 or g4 could work, but at the moment you have to decide on not giving the knight up for free, which seems to be something that a lot of players keep missing. Like some of my students, when they get like a better position, let's say they're like a rook up, they decide to sacrifice the bishop for nothing, not even like an advantage, just like give it back because it kind of looks good. So for those of you who are still making the transition from beginner to intermediate or intermediate to advanced, don't give up stuff for free. Always have a plan. So let's keep eating up. I took on f1, and I simply took on h2. I think taking on d5 is something that could potentially work in the future, but not right now because of all the potential issues that will follow. So I just simply took on h2, and I have a clear idea. I just want to play queen g3, rook h1, knight f5. So bishop d3 stops. Whoa, that is illegal. He stops my knight f5 ideas. So now, black to move. How can we continue our attack? You can see that black is much better. You can see that you want to be black. You want to go poke around with all of those squares, but right now you can't. So black to move. What to do? Okay, so I see some interesting ideas between mainly g4 or queen g3. Yes, g4 is the best one. I think queen g3 is also interesting, but g4 is something that you just gotta do it. You can't just not do this g4. So g4. In the game, he played queen f2, which I can only assume was to stop my queen g3 and my queen h1 ideas, but you can simply take it over here. He can't really take it with the pawn because there are so many different ways to win right now. I'm kind of stunned by which one to choose. There is an e4, which is quite interesting. If you take, now this is under attack. This guy is under attack, so I wouldn't even know which to choose. I think the simplest way is to actually do this e4 and just get it over with. Or you could take that and do like rook h2s. Or you could, if taken with bishop, do this e4 again. It's just super winning. So he had to take with the queen. Now what? Shall we go for the same idea? Should we try with e4, or do you want to try, do you see something stronger? I kind of do like e4, and I did play e4 in the game. You could try like bishop f5 and exchange the bishops and get the knight in the game, but I think e4 is just the easiest way to win. Eat up as much as you can. So now, after queen takes e4, are you going to take on b2, or do you see something stronger? Oh, I see someone saying f3. Nice, nice. Good job on f3. So f3 is the best one. So after f3, you have a very clear idea. You want mate, right? I'm going to do like mate in 2, maybe 3. So he has to do something to defend it, and he can't just take it back, because now I think rook f6 is the easiest way to win. Can't really take it back with the pawn because, well, b2 is falling, and there's also bishop h3. So after f3 in the game, played rook c2, take, bishop h3. Let's pick up as much as material as we can. I think rook a2 was just like a desperate try to keep this, but I honestly can't. I don't think white could hold this position, even if I, like, okay, I don't want to say if I blundered some pieces. Even if I played inaccurate, I don't think white could defend this position, because, well, it's like a free rook at this point. And, okay, so I think just bishop c3 should be enough as well. Bishop c3, and then king got a move, then another check. Oh, this is way too winning. In the game, I was like, okay, let's eat a little bit more material, and I simply just went for this position, like you take back, and I'm just eating that as well. So he just resigned now. So I do feel like this game was kind of decided on the bluff that I did, knight takes e4. So bluffing is good as long as you know that you know what you're doing, and you can bluff, then you should. I've had experiences that I try to bluff, and I've seen people like make a mistake, and then at this, like, they realize it's a mistake, and they, like, their body language shows this so visibly, like they just like start shaking their head, or like they throw the pen, or you just know it from their face, and then you start looking for what's wrong. So if you are one of those people, try and improve that, because your opponent can read body language, most likely. So this kind of reduces your poker face. So yeah, the psychology lesson of the today. Bluffing is fun, improve your poker face. And I hope you guys enjoyed these 2 games. I really liked them. Hopefully we'll have more interesting games with a nice backstory for next week. I think I am doing the Friday classes as well. I think they're on Twitch, so if you want to see more lessons from me, make sure to tune in for Friday. And with that, as my final bluff, no, not a bluff, but I'll hand you to Josh. Should be starting momentarily as soon as I finish bluffing. I mean talking. Alright, have fun everybody. See you later.